Oh my gosh, I think everything has gone wrong. My start streaming soon screen has just like checked out. I don't know what happened. So, hello. How's everybody tonight? Also, my iPad is dead and I didn't realize it. So, I have it plugged in to see if it will come to life, and that way I can keep an eye on the chat without having to turn all the way around. But that will have to do for now. Boy, I'm just... I think that I'm ready to go. I start getting ready with plenty of time, and there's always something. But, you know, it wouldn't be a day without things going wrong. Now, if I can avoid spilling my drink on myself, then then I'll be happy. Maybe I can just use my phone to check things out and make sure we're doing okay. Let me give that a try. That's also plugged in because charging devices is apparently beyond my scope of knowing what's going on in the world. All right. And there we are. So I can see. I should now be able to see what is happening. There. More or less. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Okay, so today I have still these two paintings that I can continue to work on, and I also kind of want to start on this one. I have a sketch on here that is very difficult to see, I know, with the lighting, and it's hard to see just like this because of all the stuff going on. I'm kind of thinking of starting with that guy just to keep things fresh. And this one is actually going to be based around a pink flamingo. So let me start with a smaller palette just to get this guy going. I'm going to use quinacridone red, maybe that's how we say it. Sure. Okay. Some of that, because that mixes very nicely with white to get us some beautifully fresh pink colors. So some of that, some yellow ochre, and my white's in my pile over here somewhere. There we go. Just getting set to paint my drawing in on here and get that going, so that this should be a fun one. All right, a little bit of the tiniest bit of green and yellow that I will need for just his eye that you will see, just a little bit. And then I have the room to move this over if I'm just working on the one guy here. Tiny bit. And black. Well, I'm gonna use black. I don't have black. I probably should have some black, but I rarely use it outside of if I'm using like a marker or something just to add some craziness. So dioxazine purple, probably saying that wrong too. And will that do it? Will that do it? I think. How about that? Let's throw some light magenta on there just to have some variety with pinks. All right, that was probably more than I need. And yeah, I think that's good to go to get started with it. So we can start laying in some base layers. I'm going to actually see if I can find where is my reference? Okay. Basically know, and I can see mostly my drawing, but just to be safe and not have myself have to do things over multiple times, I'll try to pay attention to my reference picture. So we'll start with some kind of intense pink and maybe throw in a little yellow, because there's some kind of hotter qualities to the pink of at least the photo that I'm working with. And we're just going to lay in a bit of a base layer on this guy. So start with his neck. And I will keep the child's face here, which kind of is going to frame this beautifully, so I'll just outline him a bit. Just the face. The rest of him can fall behind. And he just looks like kids you knew back in the day when you were in school, doesn't he? Like, I know this picture is from like a 1950s Life magazine, but definitely has the vibe of somebody you probably knew once upon a time. All right. Getting this one going very quickly. This is sort of a bit of a mid-tone that I'm using for my base layer on this fella. I've always had a soft spot for pink flamingos because they're so, like, through no fault of their own, very campy. Like, I would absolutely put plastic pink flamingos in my yard if I had a yard. No hesitation. One day. What's not to love? Most incredible color of about any animal that just exists naturally. Kind of goofy looking. Otherwise. Oh, it is so nice here today. I have the windows open in the studio. Get in all the fresh air possible. It is just the most spring type of spring day. Mid 60s. The sun's just starting to go down. There's a little bit of pink in the sky. Just the air feels so good and fresh and wonderful. I love this weather. Things are kind of just coming around to start to bloom. Let's see some little blossoms on the trees and things starting to come in. Those little tiny blue flowers that pop up in random people's yards. Not everybody's, I don't know why. Maybe it's like everybody uses chemicals or something, probably, but I don't know. Those little blue flowers and daffodils, a few tulips. And besides amazing weather, the other very exciting thing going on in the world is that our building got new laundry machines. I mean, you can't even understand how very exciting and amazing that is after these horrible machines that we've had forever. I mean, I feel like they were old when I moved in here 100 years ago. But yeah, they've not been working well for a really long time. So, like, I did happy dance when they finally got new machines to come in. And we can actually do our laundry here. Yay. It's the little things in life, being able to do laundry where you live without a huge hassle or problem. And, oh, they're coinless. That's special. Don't have to run to the bank every month or so and take out a crap ton of quarters. And quite frankly, anything and everything that requires less direct human-to-human contact for when you are a big-time introvert, it's pretty nice. Although, I mean, it also is something where, you should just be interacting with people sometimes, but going to the bank is not the way it needs to be. Try to make the best out of the errands you do have to run, but not my cup of tea. Okay, well, that's a flamingo neck. Moving along. Let's get the rest of them on here. I'll be the first to admit I do have no idea how you tell the difference. They keep referring to him as like this guy, but could be a female. I really don't know the difference between how to tell the difference between male and female flamingos. Maybe one of them is brighter colored than the other. No idea. No idea. But yeah, they're just so weird and wonderful. Besides the color, you ever see them like moving around in a group? They look kind of ridiculous, and it's so great. I've been thinking a lot lately about rabbit holes. I don't know if I mentioned them in my or mentioned anything about it in my last stream, but yeah, I was thinking like a week ago about what makes something a rabbit hole that you go down versus like an actual good idea. And then after I thought about it a little bit, I felt kind of silly, because isn't anything that you're interested in is gonna make go down those rabbit holes, look into the thing, follow your curiosities, because those are the things that make us interesting, that make us us. Everything that we learn, anything that we learn, anything that we absorb, just adds to who we are. And makes us more interesting people, I think. I can have some fun with adding texture on him. I probably could have put a little bit more overall yellow in his color, perhaps based on my photo, but it's also works with this tone of pink too. get much lighter coming up to his beak here. And more white. So anyway, Mondays. I always feel a little discombobulated, we'll say. Oftentimes when Mondays roll around, it feels like there's so much that I need to accomplish while the time's still here. And yet, so it's like internal pressure that you put on yourself, I guess. But it never seems to be that I get done all the things that I want to get done, which is always kind of frustrating. But and it's not that I don't want to lower my expectations of myself, but I do need to allow for some sense of reality and not feel too bad about things when they don't go, when I don't get as much done as I'd like to. As somebody who is a wee bit neurodivergent, we'll say, it's very easy to not be realistic about time, no matter how many times you go through the same issues and planning events and time management attempts. It's like you never really learn the difference. I don't know. All we can ever do is just our best, right? Nothing wrong with that. All right, that's coming. A little shadow on my guy here. My go-to purple for anything and everything. No matter what you're working on. Dioxazine purple can save the day. Maybe. Or maybe not. But we'll just lean into that. We need heroes in life. And if it's color, who's to say that's wrong? Well, we're going to lose the black olives of the relish dish, pretty much, which is a shame, because that's some of my favorite stuff, but it's okay. I do love black olives. I always, even as a kid, so many people like never really got into liking olives, but I don't think they know what they've missed out on. Especially when you're a kid and you can kind of get away with playing with your food a little bit. That's good food playing right there. A little more heat in there. There we go. Okay, now we are going to need to move to some lighter colors for the beak and the eye. I'd actually, because this is bothering me, I'm going to grab an eraser. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of the guideline. I drew it over the face here, and it's going to annoy me. It's like throwing off my visual sense of what is actually happening there. So we'll just get rid of that guy. I'll do a better job of it after the paint is dried. There. Still see it, but okay. Continuing on. So we've got some pretty much black in the beak. So we're gonna mix some my more intense colors here. Get a real dark shade. A not quite black shade, but dark enough. Okay. A lot of water on the brush, and here we go. Got something else that's going to be right here, so that's why I'm just kind of skipping over that at the moment. And on this picture, he's got like no real highlights. The photo that I'm working with here on the beak. So we'll just kind of let that be. As it is. Apparently this is my all-purpose brush today. Works so far. Oh yeah, I was talking about rabbit holes before. A couple of my current rabbit holes. I have, I guess, two kind of main ones at the moment of things that I'm interested in. And that is screen printing, which is something I've kind of been interested in for a long time without ever doing much about. And the other thing is, what's the other thing? Sewing. I have a sewing machine that I've owned for a very long time. And I never once have been able to successfully thread it on my own. Not once. Which is, yeah. I don't know if I'd call it embarrassing, but yeah. Some things just never quite took. But I did take a class at my local makerspace where they showed us how to make like a very basic tote bag on the machines they had there. So I was able to like be walked through, assuming that, you know, it's the same on more than one machine, the process of threading and setting up a machine. And now I think that maybe I'll give it a shot with my own machine. And my intention maybe not wisely, is that I would like to make shirts, like just tank tops. I have the shirt that I've always really, really liked. Found it to always be very like easy to wear and just very simple cut, and yet I can't find anything else like it as it is wearing out. So it's like, well, maybe I can just, use the shirt as a pattern and make some more. But it sounds like it actually is not nearly as simple as I would like to think it is. Apparently doing rounded hems is a whole thing. Who knew? Well, probably everybody who sews knew but me. So that's kind of something that I'm going to attempt pretty soon. See what happens. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? But, you gotta try to learn, you gotta do and see what happens. Otherwise, you never do learn anything. Otherwise, you never do get anywhere, right? So we're gonna go for it. And I'm sure my first attempt is going to be terrible. The only thing that's stopping me from actually like jumping in and just doing it is I don't have any fabric. So I will have to go out into the world in search of fabric for it. Which is not that big of a deal. I guess there's a fabric store, like a national chain, not far from here at all. And I'm going to need to go out into the world and buy some frames. I'll probably need to make some custom mats for them, but I need to go buy some frames. I've got a couple of pieces, a couple of smaller paintings that were accepted to be shown into a show right in the neighborhood over here. There's a new art space that's come in. And they're doing a 100 under 100 show of area artists. So work that is smaller and priced under $100 will be there. Opening is at, I think, the 28th, I think. Is correct? I will of course post about it on social media and talk about it a little bit more. But I need to get the pieces framed and over to them relatively soon here. So yeah, I'm gonna get that done. So either tomorrow or Wednesday? What day is what? Today's Monday. So probably either tomorrow or Wednesday I'll try to get to where I think I can get some frames that I can use. Try to get that running around done. And maybe stop at the fabric store so I can indulge my curiosity of trying to make other things. But I've been thinking about trying to do some screen printing for a while too, and that goes way back. I took a screen printing class in college, my freshman year of college, one semester, and I really enjoyed it. And then I never did anything else again with anything to do with it. I have, what kind of got me back thinking about it is I have the set of for screen printing that was my dad's. It was never, I don't think, used. It's still in the box. It's in this box from like the 60s that looks like it's the kind of box that board games come in. It's like the exact same size and setup. So it's kind of a crazy thing, but so yes, I have that, and I've forever thought like I want to mess around with it. Like it's not a real like proper set. It's not like a silk screen. Well, there is a screen, and then it's like a piece of like vellum almost that you have to use a blade to cut out your design, whatever that's going to be, and that gives you your print to put on things. And I just haven't taken the time to really get into it and explore it. I have done a couple things with transfer prints, messing around, and linoleum prints, but I haven't gone and really pursued printing otherwise. So with and I have these ideas, always have ideas for like shirts and things that I think would be cool and like artistic. And there isn't always entirely the possibility that I would do all the stuff to get it done and like buy everything I would need and make all the things, do it once, and then never do it again. Like this is a very real possibility, and I know that because I am who I am. But I'd still like a shot at it. Because how do you know if it's a good idea unless you do it? Like maybe it will be the next amazing thing for me. Maybe it'll inform something about my artwork. Maybe I'll learn something that will change the way that I paint. So, yeah, why would we not give that a go? So almost everything that I do now with my work all came from just experimenting and seeing things that I thought were amazing that other people did, and letting it inspire me to try things semi-related to what they were doing maybe, or something about it, their stuff that spoke to me. Somebody that really inspired me to try to experiment with materials was Suzanne Jackson, and my work looks nothing like her work. So I guess that's where they come up with the phrase like steal like an artist, where you're just taking the inspiration. What does it do to you? What does it speak to you? And doing something with that. It was very much like her use of like the unexpected materials, and her approach that really inspired me. And her work is amazing. I don't know what exists online of her work. I know at one time I tried to find some things and kind of had a hard time, but I should look again and see if there's like more updated information. She's an artist from Savannah, Georgia. And I'm going to switch my brush. This one's trying to annoy me. She has been a part of art movements in various forms and ways since the 60s, I'm going to say, definitely in the 70s, and then she kind of fell out of public eye, and kind of recently her work is being shown more recently. It was before the pandemic. I was in Savannah, and I happened to see her work at the museum there, because like I'm in a city, I'd like to check out the museums. Like, what's in there? What do they got? What artists are they showing? You never know what you're going to see or what you're going to take away from it. So I happened to catch her work there, and it really excited me. It really blew me away. And it was very colorful and very textural and huge. Like her current works, just really, really neat. You never know where you're going to find your inspiration. So that kind of led me down the path that got me into working with mixed media. Because up until that point, I hadn't done, I had not really done much in the way of mixed media. I did do some experimenting with some random things, but I was also, I think, working with a lot of digital stuff before that time. And I was like hitting a wall with it. It was no longer feeling good. It was, I felt like I was missing, and I was missing having tangible things that I could work on with my hands. And it wasn't work that, I hadn't yet taken the time to discover what I wanted to say or what I was trying to say or what I was doing with my work. I was just creating random stuff and just kind of floundering around. So it really took some of those moments to lead me on the path that I'm on now. Starting to lose some of the definition between the beak and the rest of the bird, so grabbing some of my pink tone again, building that back in. Pretty hard line of distinction between the eye and the feathers, so try to recreate that here. There's a very narrow line between still the beak and the feathers on the front of the brow here. So try to recreate that a little bit. Just very thin line. And we got a little more highlight to bring back on this edge of the beak too. I think a little bit brighter on the highlights on this side. Okay. He looks kind of creepy without an iris or a pupil, doesn't he? I kind of like that, but creepy is not entirely what I'm going with this particular series, even though I can't deny my affinity to doing creepy things. A little lighter over here. before we get down to the black part. And it's a little hotter and warmer on this side because it's actually the beak color, but it's reflecting back the color of his feathers. So we're going to put a little bit of that in here. And just a little bit coming down the front. That's almost there for the beak. It's a little too dark down here. Actually. All right, and then I can fuss a thing until it's dead. I suppose many artists can. Shadow going down the side, the back of the beak, and then I'm going to add a very thin line of where the top beak meets the bottom beak. It's almost like he's got like teeth. It looks very rough. So I need to make sure my color is wet enough to have a little flow to it, because that's the best way to get a nice thin line. So it's going to come from about here. Whoa, that's not thin. Come. There we go. A little practice on the palette never does anybody any harm. Okay. So now let's get his eyeball, which is like yellow with a hint of green. Very light though too. So some white and some yellow and a hint of green. More white, I think. Maybe a little more yellow. Let's see. Well, that's about it. Even the eye is like fluorescent. What's not to love about these weird creatures? And I'm missing a tiny line, another very skinny line of the pretty much white color. A little wet. Find my thin line. Oh, lost my paint altogether. Okay, so we have a little. Okay, so this is what we're doing here. It kind of goes up and we lose it right behind the eyeball. There we go. Yeah. Make it a little lighter on this side. And then the last thing is the pupil. Even though I kind of like them without it. That's this little part out here. Okay. So the tiniest, and it is a very, very, very tiny pupil. So we'll just go right into my dark purple and practice laying down some tiny dot. Okay. Tiny dot. Haha, there we are. Ah, that's great. Here, let me see what I'm doing first. Pull up my broadcasting software and let's zoom in a little bit. Try to get out of the. Yep, I like the eye. And even though I can't see it on the photo, I would like to have a little bit of a highlight on the beak. The light is kind of coming from this side, so just a little very light. Very light. A little bit of a dry brush approach. That's a little more than I wanted. Gonna lift some of that too. I saw a couple fun movies this weekend. One was called The Night Shift, and it's this Portuguese movie about a guy who works in morgue, night shift at the morgue, and he's able to talk to the dead people. And that leads to some interesting things. And it was fun. It had a couple good freaky moments. Well done, I thought. So yeah, I'd recommend that one if you like something. Little creepy. They're just subtitled. I don't always think to mention that when I watch movies, but I suppose that could be a deterrent for some folks. So I should try to remember to mention that. Yeah. Okay. Pretty pleased with this guy. He's a little goofy. Goofy's good. Ugh. A little bit more something that I'm noticing I'd like to go back into, because why not? Can't leave anything alone. Just a little bit more shadow going up here. Kind of been letting the brush stroke create a little bit of the texture too with the feathers and stuff. Not going crazy and trying to mimic what they're doing, but allowing it to be there, be part of that. Alright, so that was one of the movies that I would say is kind of a fun time to watch. I watch very Easter appropriate movies over Easter break. I don't know. That's never been a holiday that's really been very particularly meaningful to me. Apologies. I don't mean to offend anybody. It's just my own personal view on it. The other one was a movie called Slacks, Slaxx. And that was a very, very goofy, over the top movie that did have a message. It was talking about a little bit of consumerism and greenwashing and exploitation. Those things for the benefit of consumerism. Basically what I'm saying is it's about a killer pair of jeans. So, you know, it is fun. It's very, very ridiculous, but also it is very bloody. So don't go into it if that sort of thing is bothers you. But yes, a killer pair of jeans. Yeah, these are the things that I enjoy. Okay, so the flamingo element is basically done. Now, nope, there we are. Now, I have, as you noticed, I've left a little spot here that I didn't paint in because I'm going to paint in something different. I also am going to be, I'm sure you can tell here, putting on a necklace. I'm thinking like candy necklace type of thing. Okay, but here, let me just think about color for a second. Probably not purple because that's really close to the pink and there's a lot of purple going on right around here. The background, definitely not like blue because of this. I guess I could go orange. Could go green, but there is also a lot of green happening here. Yellow doesn't quite work. So probably like a reddy orange tone. So maybe some of the colors we have going on in here, just maybe a little brighter. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. All right, there's a plan after all. Let's see if I like what I can mix here, or if I want to grab some, or if I would like to grab my actual orange paint, which, oh, hey, there it is. Cadmium-free orange. Let's see, maybe that'll be a nicer tone. Well, it's actually very close. Oh no, where did the top go? I think in 80% of my streams I drop something. Probably. That's pretty, oh my gosh, that color is very much similar. Okay. We are going to add a little more yellow. All right, let's lay it in. We are painting over my flamingo's beak. Adding in, you're see in just a second here. You know what it is yet? You see it? It can be lips. Ladies' lips. All right, so just try to get my full shape in here. Again, I used a charcoal pencil to draw my outline because the regular pencil wasn't showing up, and a pastel pencil was not cutting it either, not really grabbing this material. This person has very, very dramatic lips. Okay. And that's the whole idea. So you might catch on that my work tends to, I try to use some humor and whimsy to address things that are important to me. And you may or may not see what's going on or what I'm thinking, which is fine. Don't have to. Certainly do not have to. Okay. So I'm losing the shape a little bit here because I'm just trying to get I'm losing the definition of it. I'm just trying to get the shape right. Like I have my drawing there, but I want to make sure that I've got it how I really would like it to look, more or less. Losing the curve there. So I'm painting lips on a flamingo. How is your Monday going? Okay. Bye. There we go. Okay. So it's kind of a mess of orange and yellow, so I'm going to kind of fill it in with a medium orange tone and then go back in and add highlights and shadows and such details. And that's where we'll figure out exactly what's happening. By getting away from like your stereotypical red color for lipstick and lips, I'm gonna have to make sure that it is otherwise very clear. And the reference I'm using is kind of wearing exaggerated lipstick, and I liked that about it, like where you kind of go over the edges to overemphasize characteristics of them. Kind of makes them look a little larger than they probably naturally would on such a person, on the person who does this. I've always found that an interesting technique of lipstick wearing because think it'd be very uncomfortable to have it like on your skin, not just on your lips, but on your skin, on your face. I don't know, but hey, absolutely to each their own. I'm not saying that with any level of judgment. It just, being somebody who has very sensitive, often angry skin, I might just have a hard time wrapping my head around doing it myself, which is fine. Not everything has to be for everybody. Okay. Keep looking back. The proportions read strange to me, but I think it's just because I compare it to what I know in my head being primarily myself. Okay, I'm actually going to let that dry a bit before I continue on there. I'll just clean up this other edge. Still see the yellow underneath. And let's move along to another one. I really like that one. All right, let's come back here to this guy. All right, I don't need that image up anymore, so let's see if I can keep track of what's going on. I will pull out a little and see some of the my palette a little bit more. Okay, I think we're there. I'll come back to this silly lady. Ladyfish, fish lady, ladyfish. I like ladyfish, kind of like ladyhawk. Isn't that better anyway? How is that not ever better? Oh, there's my kitty. Watson's took his place on the chair over there, relaxing, waiting for me to be done. The house is nice and like quiet right now. It's very, very chill here. Having the windows open. It's just really nice. We're in what is often a very quiet neighborhood. Kind of a dead-end street, which is, I mean, pretty great most of the time. I have zero. I had a reference for her face. I have zero reference for the rest of the fish. We're just being ridiculous. And having fun. I'm going to use some of the same colors. Because it's just this particular type of red. Talking's hard sometimes. This particular red just makes very lovely shades of pinks. So we're using some of that along with some other things. And based on my reference, the shadows will be more at the back. Any place that the light would hit this way will be in highlight, so you can build up some shadow, and then as this goes, I'm actually going to add some stripes on her for fun. Stripes make everything better. See, the first two paintings I did for this series started out relatively normal, all things considered. And now we're just going off the rails. And that's the best way to be. to keep my paint workable here. There are definitely challenges with acrylic paints. They dry very fast, even on your palette. And I considered setting up my wet palette today, but I did not get that done. Finding the places to let the color of the fish bleed onto the girl and vice versa. There will be a clear shadow behind the ear that will be casting a shadow, so blend our bright highlight color in a little bit. I'll probably have to repaint some of these little tendrils. What I particularly love about this one is just how happy she is to be Ladyfish. Gotta be yourself sometimes. Her ear needs some work. I kind of didn't finish that, did I? Not sure if I have everything I need to mix up my proper skin tone. Way too light. Way too late. Okay. Come on. Work with me, paint. We're not done yet. That's better, anyway. Probably use some fresh water pretty soon. Whoa, how did that become white? Well, that's about it, I think. Just about there for the ear. It kind of is taking the place of gills, you know? That's an interesting thing. Oh yeah, so I've been trying to find places where I can like take lessons on screen printing. Pretty much everything is in the city, like in the city of Chicago, which is admittedly not that far from here, but also like just enough of a pain that sometimes that drive can spark some serious anxiety with all the traffic and all that. So wish there was something a little closer, but I'm thinking about it. I think there's some in Evanston, which might be a little better than going like all the way into the city. Yeah, these are ideas that I have, which are only partially fleshed out. But I could, you know, I have that kit here. I could do my own thing. Just try to teach myself, right? That is absolutely an option. I kind of would like to be in a setting and learn from people sometimes. Maybe it's just an excuse to not try it yet. That's possible too. I'll admit it. It's definitely possible. All right. I think her body is probably dry enough that I can maybe add in those stripes I was talking about. Once I finish doing this silliness. Okay. Let's go for it. Follow the curve of the body that I have imagined. What do you know? I need a little bit more orange paint. Oh, Orbit Sniper, hello. Yes, what is your question? Can you use any color as a shadow or just dark colors? Looks good. Okay, shadows. That's a great question. Shadows are not necessarily a dark color, but they're often a cool color. So it could be you're painting a very warm scene of sunlight, bathed in sunlight. The sunlight has like a little bit of a yellow tone, and then your shadows will be a little bit darker than the light, of course, but they might have a little bit of a blue tone. So that's something you can play with shadows, is like that difference in cool and warm. I think it definitely, I mean, yeah, shadows inherently are going to be a darker shade of something, but it doesn't necessarily mean mixing black in to get your shadow. I used, in my flamingo up here, actually just used more saturated color to create the shadow. And there's purple, but on this edge, it's actually just more of the straight red that I toned down, that I toned into the pink. So yeah, it doesn't always have to be a dark color, but it can be darker than your highlight. Does that make sense? I hope that that was helpful. And I'm sorry if you asked the question a while ago and I didn't see it right away. I'm still screwed up with having my iPad not charged, so I could have it right in front of me and see what is actually going on in the world. Yeah, playing with shadows and highlights are interesting. And what you can accomplish with that. It's a great answer. I appreciate that. I'm trying. I sometimes don't know if I very well communicate my thinking, where in my head things make sense, but when I say it, sometimes things get a little garbled. But it's fun to play with. And looking at some kind of more unusual sources, references for lights and shadows can give you some interesting stuff to play with. Like, so being that I'm painting a ridiculous fish, thinking about like deep sea underwater photography. Not even necessarily deep sea, but just underwater photography. Everything's just bathed in blue. Even the highlights are blue, the shadows are blue, and seeing what different tones there are that come from there. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One thing I have the kids do in a class that I teach when they're looking at reference materials and photos is they will often look at something and be like, there's a shadow there, so they just mix a color with some black and they paint in the shadow. But if you take even like a piece of paper and you cut out a tiny square in the middle of it and you hold it over that shadow, then you can actually see what color it actually is. There was one student I was working with where the shadow that she was painting in was actually just like a mid-tone purple. It just happened to be the way that the light was in that photo. So it's very interesting, light and dark, and the lights in the space and sunlight and all these, so many things affect stuff. And yeah, anyway, rambling. Can get this stuff can get pretty nerdy if you like it too, which is always just fun. And I am so, like, I still feel like I have so much to learn when it comes to color theory. There's still so much that I could do more with, better at. But that's just the thing, the more you learn about a thing, the more you know you don't know. And there's always more to go back and try to mess around with after the fact if you're so interested to do so. So there's always opportunity for more development, growth, learning, curiosity. Yeah, I was going to paint stripes and I painted all of one, and then I got distracted by other things. Story of my life. I used to sometimes try to play around with working with a very limited palette. I remember in especially college, I would work with my yellow oxide. So you can see kind of the color that is. Ah, that's kind of a neutral yellowy brownish color. That and the purple dioxazine purple, which is very dark purple, with white. Those two colors primarily with white, and try to create things using just those tones. And I think I did some with dioxazine purple and orange. I think if I remember correctly, there was a portrait of Oscar Wilde that I did with primarily those two colors. Completely forgot about that. No, I don't even remember. It's been so long. Let's see. Dark purple and orange. Because I know, like, these are not quite, but essentially mixing opposing complementary colors. I mean, it kind of just, it gets you very neutral, brownish, reddish brownish. I just have to see if I still have that painting somewhere. I might. I don't think I could ever give away that one, because it was really a soft spot for Oscar Wilde. I painted him holding a ferret, I think. I don't think I did a very good job at the ferret, but I did a pretty good job, if I recall, with the portrait. But if I look at it now, I might have a very different perspective on if it was good or not. There's always a possibility. There's some yellow. I think I'm getting, I'm working fairly directionlessly right now. I'm just, I think my brain has reached that point where it's like a little bit loopy and we're just doing things. Of course, one of my favorite color combinations is black with yellow, because that gets you some of just the best green colors, like neutral greens. Green paint out of a tube, I'm usually not very thrilled with the results, but working with that kind of process to mixing yellow and blue, also I'm never that excited with the results. Trying to get kind of realistic greens, or nice, interesting greens. Natural, especially. So yeah, definitely black and yellow. It's a good combination to use. So if you're trying to do a colorful cartoon or other type of art, can you use bright colors like yellow? Yeah. Well, you mean for shadow? Yeah, you can use... Okay. I move things over without breaking anything. So if I have a character or a shape that's, you know, a bright yellow, let's make them really bright. And that's casting a shadow. It might just be taking some of that same color and toning it back a little bit. Either like this, where it's still kind of a hot shadow. There's still a lot of warmth in it, but it's still a shadow. Let me zoom in a bit on here. Try not to knock my microphone off the table while I'm at it. So, yeah, there is an example of using, I mean, it's a little bit more orange toned yellow, or let's go back to the bright yellow again. If there's ground behind him, you could go in the other direction. Like if there's grass back there, maybe it's casting a light yellow or light green. I know my colors, I know what I'm doing. So yeah, you can absolutely stick with your bright colors. It's sort of just a matter of some level of contrast. Even this, you might not even need to go that much neutral with your color. Let's see. Grab some more yellow. Again, we have a bright character and bright yellow here. Could just be very barely, like no neutralizing it. It's still just a tiny bit of red or orange mixed in there. It's just a little bit of contrast in either temperature or shade or shadow in terms of a deeper version of the color. So any of those things can work as, like, here's your character. I mean, even if your character is, oh, bright pink. Let's see. We might need, could we still use yellow to create shadow there? Let's take a look. I mean, yeah, why not? Oh, you're not bothering me with questions at all. I love this stuff. I'm very interested in it. You're making a storyboard. I want to do some concept art. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Awesome. Well, I mean, a great opportunity to do a lot of experimenting with color. I mean, why not? This is amazing stuff. I love it. I'm actually currently doing some storyboarding on a project, and it's a lot of doing and then redoing and then redoing, even just for the storyboard part of it, working things out. So even your drawing, as you're adjusting your drawing, you know, you put something down, then you tweak it, and then you're like, wrong angle, let's put it here, whatever. It's kind of the same thing that you would do with color. So maybe, I don't know if you're doing digital or like watercolor or something like that, some washes, but digital would be very easy to just like take a big document, take your drawing, and just make a bunch of copies of it, and then turn on your multiply effect. I don't know if you're using Photoshop, I guess. Turn on your multiply effect and paint colors on all of them a little bit differently to experiment with it. And you can kind of do the same thing if you're working with like watercolor. If you have a decent sized paper, and I wouldn't use super expensive paper for it, but have your drawing, like maybe a small version for experimenting with. And I would get some graphite paper. Maybe. I have a roll of it here. This sheets. This is Ceral wax-free artist graphite paper, and it's just a roll of these sheets. It's literally like tissue paper with graphite on it. And you can even make your own with some kind of lightweight paper and just really dig into it with either charcoal or a very dark graphite, soft graphite. And take your drawing with that sheet under it, graphite facing down, and sketch it, like redraw over that a bunch of times to basically make a copy of it. Bunch of copies, and then you can do a bunch of different washes, playing with your saturations and your colors. Digital is super easy for that, of course, because, undo buttons and stuff. But no, that's awesome. I love it. I wish you the best, and I hope you have a lot of fun with it. That's very, very cool. It is it's a great opportunity for exploring and experimenting. And let's go back to working on the lips on this guy. They're pretty dry. See them. Make sure we can see them. I keep forgetting that I'm moving camera and stuff around. So focused here. Maybe there we go. Let me look at picture again. Never really done a super detailed lips. I've done a lot of portraits, I've done a lot of lips, but I never have really gotten into doing all the little creases and stuff, so we'll see how that goes here. And the beautiful thing, one of the advantages of working with acrylic paint, is if you don't like what you got, you can always paint over it. And this, I'm not loving. Paint is a little funky. I've reached that hour-and-a-half mark where the acrylic starts to get weird and dry. What is my storyboard? I'm working on a project with some people have brought me in on to help with a picture book. So that's what I'm currently working on. I'm not going to give too much details away at it as it's very early on, and I'm just it's not my project, so I don't want to go into a lot of it, but in terms of the work process, I can talk about that all day long and get into that stuff. And I don't probably do anything the right way, so take anything with a grain of salt, of course. I did go to art school quite some time ago now, but a lot of what I do now is much more self-taught in terms of the way that I work with media and so many things. Do I use Google Docs? I have. Currently, I've been using, just for, what I'm using right now is actually InDesign, because for the work I do, and I do all kinds of, I do some freelance graphic design work. I worked as a graphic designer for a lot of years. I have the subscription to Adobe, and you definitely don't need to have that. There's other page layout stuff out there. So many things have changed since I got into things. There's so much more resources out there, and I don't know exactly what the competition for InDesign is, but that's just a page layout program, and that's what I'm using to mock up the book, because that's literally what that software is built for. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you're doing, what kind of, how many pages you're mocking up. When you're talking about a picture book, you have a limited amount. So I could really take one large sheet of paper and print out something that has my spreads on it, all 32 or however many there are, and do mini sketches and then work those up from there for the storyboard. So yeah, it very much, I guess, come down to, like, if you're storyboarding a film or something along those lines, then you're working on a much bigger project. And I'd be curious to look into if there is like some kind of standard that anyone uses for that. I always find word processing documents to be difficult to work with, but that's also just me. Like, I never professionally worked with Word hardly ever, like Microsoft Word even, outside of typing papers in school. So I was never great at it outside of just, types of paragraphs. You ask me to put images into a document in Google Documents or Word or something like that, and I'm going to be like futzing around trying to figure it out like your grandmother, Just never really needed to do it. Definitely, sadly, better at spreadsheet software than I am at document software like that. I don't know what that says about me. I'm probably giving myself cancer when I do that all the time. It's like your weird great aunt when you were a kid coming in and licking her finger to clean something off your face. My story is similar to Pinocchio, but it's very different. It's dark. I'm a fan of dark. I like that. I actually haven't even seen the new Pinocchio. Well, aren't there a couple of them made, I guess, but the animated one, oh my god, I'm losing my mind. The director is Del Toro, right? I want to say the wrong name. I know it's the wrong name, but that's the name that my brain is pulling up. Anyway, yeah, I haven't even seen the newest remake of it. And honestly, I haven't even seen the Pinocchio movie since I was very, very young. The original one, Disney one. But I love it. I think that that's ripe for reiteration. I think it's definitely got room to be very dark. So, very cool. I like it. I actually want to know the basics of the story. Yeah, I'd love to know. Absolutely. I remember getting into a bit of trouble in an illustration. I was an illustration major in college. With the primary illustration class, the instructor, on a project that was surprisingly a children's book. I made it too dark. I made it kind of creepy. Like, not just kind of creepy, but like creepy. It was, it wasn't really even good. I really struggled with that project, and the teacher just laid into me. It was like the end of the year, and she's like, you don't get it. Nothing about this is appropriate. You probably shouldn't even be in this major. Like, she really just, like, ripped me apart over that. That was rough. And when you're, that age, it's like, what, 18 or something, probably 19. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody telling you that what you think you want to do with your life is probably not, you have no business doing, it's brutal. Thinking way too much about college age right now. I know a lot of people who talk about like good old days for their either high school or college experiences, and it's like, I would not do that again. And plenty of that is my own fault, but nonetheless. Would not do it again. Come on. What you doing, paint? Well, this is not too bad. Starting to look a little bit like lips, maybe. I'm fighting the paint a little bit at this point in the night. Thinking maybe a good time to switch to doing some pasting. And try to get a little bit more my darkest tones in there real quick. Oh, here we are, the story. It's based in New Orleans during the Great Depression. It starts as an 8-year-old boy walks into his father's workshop. His parents make puppets of all kinds, including marionettes. I like the base premise there. Right off the bat, New Orleans makes a great backdrop for a darker story, no doubt about it. It's a beautiful city, but certainly has a darkness to it. He asks why they make puppets, and his father says it's been a family tradition and that puppets are perfect when people aren't. Definitely sounds like the potential for a scary movie. I'm probably reading faster than you can type in there, but I appreciate you giving the details. Definitely interested. I'm not super thrilled with how it is at the moment. I was looking at it for a minute. We'll see if we can pull it back around or if we'll just hit this again another time and finish it. There's a movie that, oh, here we go. He walks the path back to his home, and his mother is sitting on her chair while smoking. She asks where he was, and he tells her what he asked Dad and what his father said. She scoffs, and the boy walks back inside. there's a movie, and you're gonna laugh when I tell you. It's Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 4? Is it Part 4 or 5? I'm gonna confuse them. Which, like, that series, it has a kind of notoriously bad first and second movie. There are Christmas horror movies that, like, got banned when they came out in the 80s. But the subsequent follow-ups were almost nothing to do at all with those original stories, and were kind of like self-contained little horror stories around Christmas time. And two of them were directed by Brian Usna, who does some fun and weird body horror stuff. If you've ever seen Society 6, that was one of his movies. That is a terrifically weird and bizarre movie, especially the final act. That's where, I mean, nobody can prepare you for that movie. But one of those is, it's not exactly puppets, but it's like robots, toys. And I don't know. I don't know if I should entirely go into it. I really liked it, and it had some crazy weird visuals. And it's definitely, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a good movie, but I really enjoyed the storyline, and I enjoyed the weirdness of it. Especially how the story, like, ends, I guess. It gets super weird. You can count on Brian Usna to bring the weird and creepy visuals when it comes to, like, body stuff. I don't know. Kind of love it. Okay. 5 years later, the boy is now 16, and he is sitting in his room. The walls are covered in puppets, finished and unfinished, and of all sizes. He made these. His father calls him to the living room. Ooh. Got me on the hook here. I like it so far. Okay, I think I might leave this one here at that stage. Come back and finish that probably next time. This one I started with and didn't get very far with finishing it, but it's still coming. I'm gonna kind of skip ahead with them. Pull out my box of words. And decide where these will go. So this is definitely got to be one of these two, I think. The more is really huge, though, and that's going to be the tricky part, because that takes a lot of space. So I can clean it up a little bit, trimming it down, and that might help cut it much closer to the word. See where we can fit this guy. His father sends him down to town to try to get more nails and paint. When he comes back home, he gives the paint and other materials to his father. When it becomes time for bed, he goes into his room and closes the door. Is this, I'm guessing, for visual treatment? Like film or along those lines? It feels like it. Like I can kind of see the things in my head happening. Or maybe a graphic novel, perhaps. I don't know, but I can see it. But I watch a ridiculous amount of horror movies, straight and visual. I can kind of imagine that, like, that moment where the son would go into the town and bring those things back, and you as the viewer recognize that there's going to be some importance to this moment, and he goes back in his room, closes the door, okay, you're hooked. It's like, where is this going to go? What's going to happen now? I like that. Yes, I guess we're going to go with this guy. I'm going to pull out a little bit again, I think. Nope, that was in. Here's it. Okay. So, maybe something like this. I can certainly see where that would work as like a graphic novel or something as well, naturally. I think for myself, I just don't read as many of them these days, so my mind goes to like pick the moving picture. I have some time in the last year. I track movies I watch in Letterboxd, the Letterboxd app, because I forget otherwise. I'll be the first to admit, I forget what I've seen. I forget things that I like. And at some point in the last year, I crossed over 500 movies that fit into the horror genre. So yeah, I might have a problem. He wakes up in the middle of the night and can hear his parents talking. His mother says, "Are you sure it will work? Will it make him a perfect child? What if it doesn't?" And the father says, "Oh, I'm sure it will work. The man said it always works." Ooh. Creepy. Are they going to do something to the boy, or are they working on something different? Another child. Of course, dolls are the advantage puppets. Dolls essentially are inherently creepy, just in and of themselves. It's like weird little golems that are empty. I wouldn't exactly say I was ever a normal little girl exactly, but I always hated baby dolls. They just creeped me out. And the drawing mannequins, I don't currently have one in here. I think it's in my bedroom. The wooden ones. I remember being a kid and David Copperfield, the magician, had some TV special. He was doing some trick. I can't remember what the trick was. It was something to do with being on a boat in the Bermuda Triangle. And he was demonstrating what he was going to do with a whole bunch of those drawing mannequins. And those things freaked me out. It's a person that has no face. And that just like disturbed me deeply on some level. And I don't know, I'd taken those things that disturbed me and run with them. The sun is setting the next day, and the boy is sitting in the yard. His father calls him inside. The father wants him to go to town again and buy some more paint because he's running out quicker than normal. Foreboding for sure. Nothing worse for a kid than creepy parents. Another movie reference here, The Gate, from the 80s, which is sort of a good like a doorway to step into to get into weird, scary movies. It's like, kid friendly. It's about kids. More or less, anyway, kid friendly. But there is a scene where the kid's fooled into thinking that his parents are in the front yard, and he goes to hug his father, and his father's like face comes off, and like it's really something that I think would, like, the safety of parents. And of course, not all parents, unfortunately, properly have that role, but nonetheless, it's very terrifying idea for parents to like not be in that role, to take that away. I'm putting some of my glue on the giant weird word, or more. Real quick here. Get that pasted down. Right, there we are. When the boy walks out of the house, it is starting to rain. He reaches the bottom of the stairs. He hears a loud bang, but he can't see anything anymore. Then the last thing he hears is his mother saying, "Don't worry, you will be perfect." Oh, no. Creepy. Put him in a doll body, I take it, or a puppet. Oh. That certainly implies like a level of needing to control things. If somebody wants to turn you into a puppet, it's a very strong metaphor right there. Which certainly can come from parents. More glue. Get my weird shit on here. Try to maintain my margins a little bit. There's a lot of chaos going on here. Some of that will get toned down with either paint or some pastels or whatever else you pull in here going forward. And maybe I'll grab some of my Posca markers real quick. I'm just thinking for the candy necklace that I'm putting on the flamingo. Just grab my little drawer. Not spill my paint water on myself, preferably. Here's space here. Ow. Dropping more things. Oh, here we go. He wakes up in his father's workshop, but he feels no cold or heat. He walks outside, but his legs are making it hard for some reason. When he sees his home, it was gone, nothing but the skeleton of the home burnt black. Oh, sounds like something went very wrong. So many levels of betraying the trust of the character. The parents, the home, your body. That's a pretty dark story. Should we put pink in there? I mean, can you have too much pink? It kind of has to have some pink if it's a candy necklace, doesn't it? I don't even know if it's going to actually look like that in the end. If that'll come across clearly. We'll see. I go with it. Can't remember last time I've actually seen a candy necklace. Certainly much less had one myself. I can go back in with a regular acrylic and give it some highlights. Certainly need to do that, because those are very whitish, I think, for voodoo. Well, that makes sense. I like it. I really dig it. I hope you will, as you work on it, if that you keep going with it, keep me posted. That sounds, I love the basis of it, of what you got going. Then he then realized what was going on. Ugh, creeps. As my cat makes weird noises and leaves the room quickly. Not creepy at all there. Oh, he didn't leave the room. There he is. Hello, Watson. It's still well in view. The pink disappears in the orange a little bit at the moment, but after I add in some real toned highlights on there, that will help a lot. I sometimes consider getting a blow dryer in here, like a dedicated hair dryer for drawing things, but generally I just go back and forth between working on different projects and I'm waiting for something to get to that point. It's that one spot right there. I need to fill in, but the paint's so wet around it. Waiting for those to finish drying. They're getting there. What the heck? Get out the oil pastels. He is walking through the woods thinking about how he was still alive. He finds a cabin in the middle of the woods. That's always a good sign. There is a light in the cellar window. He looks through and sees a young woman. You know that's going to be trouble. She's in an apron, butchering what he thinks is a pig or some other animal. I don't know that I'm working on just this one. Let's sharpen that up a bit. Going long today. Getting things done. Yeah, why not? Is that really on there good? I think so. Felt like it moved when I went over it, but I think it's all right. That's what I have so far. I like it. I think that this is what are we, like, first act of a story about? Maybe first half, right? I think that that's really great. I like the discomfort of it and the mystery. Young woman is supposed to be a cannibal but cares for the boy. She becomes the caring mother figure. And at this point, I'm assuming the whole thing is that he is turned into a doll or puppet, right? Is that right? Am I correct there? So it's pretty, I like it. I like it a lot. and I'm serious, keep me posted on where you go with it and what happens. I'm in. Marionette, yeah. I do imagine he'd be safe from the cannibal at that point. Lucky for him. Oh, very cool. I absolutely inherently find dolls and things like that creepy anyway, so I think it's a great premise, especially when you, as the observer of the story, and the boy being the protagonist, like, you become that. Adds to the creepiness. And here's my cat walking through right in the middle of everything. Yeah, we've been at it for a while, huh, cat? Huh, Mr. Watson? So I made a lot of progress on this one in particular, of course, having worked on it the majority of the time. There's definitely still some things I would like to do. But I think it's probably a good place to leave it. Yes, I would love to know where you got your fear of dolls. Because I think I know the moment when I did, and I'd definitely be interested to know for other people where that comes from. Mine I think started when I was probably maybe a toddler. But I have this weird memory of being at my grandparents' farm, and they had a crib where, I don't know, it was just had been my dad's and uncles and probably my grandparents, for likely. And I remember being put in that crib, and there were some old toys. The main thing I remember is this clown doll. It was a soft, cushy clown doll. And of course, taking into account how young I was, so my memory may be skewed, but I remember it being like the red and white clown, and it wasn't the clown of it that freaked me out. This kind of goes back to what I was mentioning before about my fear with drawing mannequins and how it disturbed me that they didn't have faces. He had a body, he had a head with a little pointy hat in his head, and then the body, and I can't remember even, I think there might have been arms, but no legs, and it was just like a ball, with the idea of it being, you know, a young kid's toy. But the fact that it didn't have all of the limbs, and I can't remember if there were arms or not. There for sure were not legs. I don't remember the arms. But that, I remember that freaked me out. Like, that kind of disturbed me back then too. And I can remember that I pushed it out of the crib a couple times, and then people would put it back in, and apparently I could not articulate that I did not want it in there with me. But I think that might have been the start of it. And for Morbid Sniper, when I was a baby, my cousin had a mannequin in his living room by the couch. I was sitting on my dad's lap, and then the dog bumped into it and made it fall on my lap. Ah! I started freaking out. Yeah. Same thing with the mannequins. They're like inhuman humans. They're not quite right. The features aren't quite there. Yeah. Man, that stuff's creepy to a kid. I don't know. It's, yeah. I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you on that fear. Man. good fodder for scary stories. It really is. On that note, oh, it's been more than 2 hours going, and I think I'm going to call it for the stream for working on it. I have loved hearing your story that you're working on, and I can't wait to see what you do with it, or to find out what you do with it. But I will wish you good night, and I will be back on streaming on Thursday morning, continuing with this madness. And yeah, have a great night and take care. I pick this up again later. Bye.